Hey there, welcome into the College Basketball Bracket Science YouTube channel and podcast network. I'm your host for today, and today we are recapping some hoops. College basketball has officially begun. We're going to talk about some of the big games that went on, most notably Arizona beating Florida. We also had Duke and Texas last night. We're going to talk about some of the odd results. We saw a potential tournament team lost to a Division II team. So we're going to talk about the big games. We're going to kind of recap them, highlight some of the individual player performances in some of these games. And of course, we can't leave the show without talking about the fantastic freshmen who have just been popping off, starting on the main stage on night one with Koa Pete having a massive game. So we'll talk about some of the freshmen, and then we are going to get into some rankings. I updated the rankings just 2 days in, moved a few teams down, a few teams up, most notably, of course, Arizona. That'll be, a big topic of today's show. And then we're going to talk about the games to know for Wednesday night. We're recording this Wednesday about 10 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast. Talk about the games on Wednesday night and Thursday night. Nothing great. Pretty slow days here. But the weekend's going to be good. Starting on Friday, we have some blue blood matchups. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button before we dive into the show, because starting on Friday this week, we're going to have a best bet show just for the weekend games. We have ranked matchups all over the on Friday, Saturday, and even I believe on Sunday. So we're going to talk about that. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Bracket Science, where we are staying heavily involved in the college basketball community right now, trying to get out as much content as possible. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us on our social medias. Without further ado, let's start talking about some of the games that went on. We're going to go back to Monday night with the big game that was number 3 Florida and number 13 Arizona, taking place in Las Vegas, where Arizona got the better of them 93-87. This was a good game all the way through. The star, Koa Pete, 30 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, was absolutely fantastic on the main stage. There's been so much talk about Cam Boozer, about AJ DeManson, about Darren Peterson. Koa Pete was depending on where you're getting it, number 8 or number 9 recruit in the entire country. And he came out and just dominated, who I believe is still the best front court in the entire country in Florida, with Tommy Houck, Alex Condon, Han Lockton, and Ruben Chinyelu. Koa Pete went out and just dominated. He was an absolute star out there. He had a couple highlight dunks. That one where he dunked over Alex Condon on the alley-oop was just, I audibly just let out an oh my. It was like, oh my goodness, this is his night. And then he had another dunk about 20 seconds later. So Koa Pete, a star of the show. I'll dive a little more into this game, but just want to highlight the player stats as well. Jaden Bradley, the point guard for Arizona, who's going to step into a bigger role with Caleb Love gone this upcoming year, also had 27 points, 5 assists, 2 steals. He was fantastic. Florida's leading scorer was Tommy Houck, who stepped into playing the 3 position. He was kind of their sole offense. He had 27 points in this game for Florida. So major takeaways from this game. Florida fans, good news. I do not leave this game thinking that you are worse than what I expected you to be. I thought Florida showed up well. I thought it was just Arizona's night. It was a very high quality basketball game. My goodness, going from opening day where we're starting off with Queens and Winthrop to this with Florida and Arizona. It was just, I mean, it's obvious, but it was just it looked like a very good basketball game. Felt like, a March Madness type of Elite Eight sort of game where it was very good basketball. I'm still in on Florida. I mentioned on our last show that I had Florida ranked 6th in the preseason, and then I ended up started moving them up, I believe, to number 4 going into, our official rankings going into the season, had them at number 4. I don't feel that comfortable moving them down very far at all, because I thought they showed a lot. Tommy Houck was, the star of the show, as we mentioned, but the big question's been in the backcourt. Boogie Fland got into foul trouble early, so he didn't play as many minutes as I thought. So that really did influence the game a little bit. I think once Boogie Fland is, settled in here, he's a really good basketball player. I just went back and rewatched the Arkansas versus St. John's game of the NCAA tournament last year. Boogie Fland's a really good basketball player. I think he's going to be just fine for Florida. And then Xavier Lee was kind of the big question. He was 5 of 17 from the floor. Looked like he was started off really well and looked like he was really trying to fit in just immediately and try and make an impact on the game and prove he was there. And he looked fine. I think this team's going to be better if he's just strictly a shooter and not trying to do too much, because he is a good shooter, but he's, I know he makes his money by being quick and shifty and trying to get to the rim, but it looks a little out of control at some points. He could probably get away with that in the mid-major level. I don't think he's going to be able to get away with that at Florida and in the SEC. So I did like what I see from Xavier Lee's shots. I know he didn't shoot the ball too particularly well, going 5 of 17. Wasn't too fond of him driving to the rim, but I think that's going to be Boogie Flan's role as we expand further into the season. So with that backcourt, I think it's going to get better. I think they'll develop their roles. I trust Todd Golden, but Arizona, the guy to know is Krivas. I call it Motajice. I know it's not right. It's something foreign, but I love Krivas. I think he's going to be fantastic for this Arizona team this upcoming season. He fit in well. Speaking of big men as well that performed better than I expected him to be for Florida, just going back to Florida, Micah Hamilton had 11 points and 12 rebounds. To add to that already, just outstanding front court with Tommy Houck, Alex Condon, and Chinyelu, as we mentioned. Chinyelu did foul out, but Hamilton played really well. But Krivas and Awaka being, that platoon big, I think Krivas is going to be a legit star this upcoming season. Not, he's not going to spark like, Koa Pete might, but he's just going to be so important to this team. He's a big body down low, a shot blocker, can move good. He runs well for 7'2". I think he's going to be great. Braden Burries didn't play particularly well, but Jaden Bradley stepped up, as did Koa Pete. I left thinking these teams were very similar teams in general going forward in the season, both Final Four contenders. Very in on both Florida and Arizona. It was a really good game, but Koa Pete, he was an absolute star in this game. All right, let's talk about some of the other games that went on opening day. The second game of this Las Vegas Classic or whatever it was called. BYU took down Villanova, number 8 team in the country, BYU, 71-66. AJ Devanza looked good. 21 points, 6 rebounds. Richie Saunders also added 15 points. Rob Wright added 14 points. Kiba Kita had some highlight plays. BYU is kind of what we expected them to be. They dominant in the first half, and then Villanova kind of fought back, showed some grittiness. But BYU, very good showing here on opening night with, not a lot of continuity other than, Richie Saunders coming back and Dawson Baker still there and Kiba Kita. But, bringing in 2 high-level players with AJ Devanza and Rob Wright, it was like, how would they fit? They spread the ball pretty well. AJ Devanza looked great. Villanova, I thought, showed some heart. I think they look like they're going to be a bubble team this upcoming season, which is kind of what I projected them coming in. Bryce Lindsey was their leading scorer coming off the bench, scoring 22 points, good shooter. Villanova, I think they're just going to be scrappy all season long under Kevin Willard. I think they're going to be solid. I like Kevin Willard. I think it's going to be a better season than you've had under Kyle Neptune. And Kyle Neptune, it's not even debatable, had much better rosters than this team had, but Kevin Willard is a much better coach than Kyle Neptune. So feeling optimistic about both teams, like what I saw from both of them. So good start there. Quinnipiac, the favorite in the MAAC, traveled to number 5 St. John's. St. John's just put a beating on them, 108-74. We got the St. John's starting lineup finally because we were questioning it for a while. St. John's did end up starting Dylan Mitchell, Bryce Hopkins, and Zuby Ejiofor all starting together. They brought Hosan Sanan off the bench, who had a good game. I believe he scored 14 points. I don't have the box score put up. I think it was 14 points. And then in the backcourt, they did have Oziah Sellers bringing up the ball and Ian Jackson playing the 2. So I thought Sanan was probably going to start, maybe bring Dylan Mitchell off the bench as kind of a platoon. But I like what Rick Pitino did here because Dylan Mitchell is going to be their X factor for St. John's this upcoming season. I saw him play a ton of games at Cincinnati. I've covered a couple Cincinnati games. He is a freak athlete, just one of those guys who is so long and so athletic where it's like, this guy should be awesome. He would legit NBA buzz after his years at Texas. Had a disappointing year at Cincinnati last year, as pretty much everyone did for that Cincinnati team. But I think Dylan Mitchell is going to be a severe X factor for the St. John's team. Zuby Ejiofor was also great. The backcourt was fine with Oziah Sellers and Ian Jackson. Good start. They can score the ball. We'll see how they do against some higher level competition. St. Thomas took on St. Mary's in the in a game of St. Mary's is supposed to be down this upcoming season, but we say that a lot, and Randy Bennett is never down. So they won the game 84-58. St. Thomas is the favorite in the Summit this upcoming season. I like the St. Thomas team, but I was very impressed to see what St. Mary's did there to win the game 84-58. Lehigh went to number 2 Houston. This was a little bit closer than some of a lot of people might have expected. Houston won the game 75-57. It was never really close, but I believe they were 31-point favorites. No, they might have been even higher than that. They were 30-plus point favorites. And, Lehigh covered in this game. Houston's going to be a work in progress, just incorporating those freshmen into the system. Southern played at Arkansas. Southern always a good program in the SWAC. Arkansas dominated 109-77. This Arkansas team, I think, is like Final Four national championship good. I think they will be a top 3 seed in the NCAA tournament this upcoming season. Speaking of freshmen, Darius Acuff scored 22 points in his debut, looked really good. And Trayvon Brazil, 25 points, 11 rebounds. He had NBA draft buzz a couple years ago before suffering that torn ACL. Maybe he can get back on track and be, get up, climbing up on those draft boards. But this Arkansas has so many pieces. They got the defensive capability. They've obviously got the offensive capability. This Arkansas team is going to be scary this upcoming season. Speaking of points scored, my goodness, Michigan puts up 121 against Oakland, 121-78. Morez Johnson, 24 points. Morez Johnson and Ade Mara in the starting lineup. Yaxel Lendeborg not in the starting lineup in this game. I didn't really watch this game, quite frankly, just because Florida, Arizona was on. And as soon as it was, this was a blowout from the beginning. I bet Michigan minus 22.5 because I think Oakland's going to stink this year. So I was kind of, watching the scoreboard, didn't even notice that Yaxel Lendeborg didn't start until, I looked at the box score pretty much like 3/4 of the way through the game. So I'm not sure what the whole story is. I probably should have looked into it, but Morez Johnson was great. Ade Mara had a double-double, and Elliot Cadeau had 12 assists. Namari Burnett also knocked down some threes, which is my big concern coming into the season. Who's going to be the elite scorer? Said it was probably going to, elite shooter on this roster. Said it was going to be between Namari Burnett and Roddy Gale. They're going to need one of them to be, a 35 to 40% 3-point shooter. Namari Burnett had a good start. Bear in mind it was just against an Oakland team who should be down this year, but optimistic start there for Michigan fans. Speaking in the state of Michigan, number 22 Michigan State held off Colgate 80-69. This was a close game all the way through. Colgate really well coached. Michigan State just, we'll see where their offense is going to come from. They're going to be tested against Arkansas on Saturday. That'll be it's kind of going to be a wait and see approach for me on Michigan State. I'm a little bit lower than most on some. All right, a very, very odd result. Number 20 Auburn takes down Bethune-Cookman 95-90 in overtime. This was a nail biter to the finish. Auburn was up 3, ended up fouling on a 3-point shot, like almost from half court. Bethune-Cookman made all 3 free throws, and it went to overtime, and Auburn somehow just held off in overtime. Bethune-Cookman does have a lot of talent this year, but they have a lot of talent for a SWAC school, not they're not a power conference talented team at all. So a little bit of a scary start here for Auburn and Stephen Pearl. I was trying to keep up with the game because I can't remember what other game was on TV at that point. It still might have been the Florida Arizona game that I was tuned into, and just watching on my phone, and then it's like 2 seconds left in the game and Bruce Pearl's on the TNT broadcast. I'm like, he's got to be sweating out his son's game here, but he can't even watch it because he's on the TNT broadcast. I'm sure he didn't expect it to be this close, but it was. Keyshawn Hall was great. He had 28 points. He was 16 of 18 from the free throw line, shot 18 free throws in this game. A little bit just on Auburn going into the season. If you're a follower of the podcast or the YouTube channel, I'm not high on this roster in general, even before Bruce Pearl went. Now that Stephen Pearl stepped in, trying to, put all the pieces that no disrespect to Stephen Pearl. I think it's just takes a hit to your program when you lose one of the better coaches in college basketball. I don't think that's unfair to say, but I think the roster is just, all right, I'm ready to say the take that I've been holding in. Even last year, he was good, but as a 6-man, I think Tahad Pettiford's really overrated. He's a good basketball player. Don't get me wrong. I do think Keyshawn Hall is going to be by far the best player on this team. I think Tahad Pettiford's a little bit overrated in this aspect. I think he's good. I just don't know if he's, first team all SEC. I know that's like saying that's splitting hairs. Like, yeah, you can be second team all SEC and still be a tremendous basketball player, which with his usage, we'll see. But I don't think he's the type of guy that can carry you to like a 4 seed. See if Keyshawn Hall can really do it. But I'm a little bit, fading Auburn for probably the rest of the year, quite frankly. All right, next up, we'll see what Stephen Pearl can do, though. Next up, let's move into the mid-major ranks just a little bit here before diving into some odd results at the bottom right of this graphic. James Madison loses to Akron. Disappointing for me. I have been in on James Madison for a while going into this season. I'm like, James Madison's my sleeper, mid-major team. They're winning 39-30. at the half. James Madison was up 39-30 at the half. I put it on my best bet segment. James Madison plus 7.5. All you got to do is not lose by over 17 points in the second half. They get outscored 55-32 by Akron in the second half. Kind of a collapse for Preston Spradlin's squad there. It was closer than the final score indicates, and then Akron ran away late. But shout out to John Gross's Akron squad. They are by far the favorite in the MAC right now. Actually, you got to throw Miami, Ohio into that conversation. They had a nice win on opening night. So the brothers, Travis Steele and John Gross, are brothers, both in the state of Ohio. Travis Steele at Miami, John Gross at Akron. Two mid-majors to kind of keep an eye on for this upcoming season. Bradley versus St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure took them down 69-63. This was in the Field of Day opening day marathon. Pretty fun game here. A lot of close games in the Field of 68 opening day marathon. Yeah, St. Bonaventure going to be solid. Picked 8th in the A10 this year. Bradley, one of the favorites in the Missouri Valley, but they lost a lot from last year's, I believe, 28-win team. So St. Bonaventure, good start here. I think this is going to be a sign of the A10 this year. I think the A10 is going to be, that was one of my hot takes. The A10 returns to, solid status, gets multi-bids this year, maybe even 3 or 4. I think the A10 is going to be really good. Troy traveled to Kent State in the, this was in the, there's opening night. They do the Sun Belt in the MAC Challenge, where I believe all the games were played at MAC arenas though, which was strange. This game was at Kent State. Kent State with an absolute choke job at the end of this game, as this was also one of my other best bets. So a couple bad beats to start, just as we expect. We were still positive on the day, but yeah, 103-97. Kent State was up 2 with like 6 seconds left, and Troy had to go the length of the court, and they just didn't stop the ball. They did not stop the ball all the way down the court, led them to pretty much a wide open layup. They didn't even contest it. It was like they were so desperate, so scared to foul in this situation, and then they got up 4 in overtime and choked that away as well. Troy came back to win 103-97. Tough start for Rob Senderoff's crew. I watched a little bit too much of this game than I should have, just being kind of, close to Kent State, and it didn't look good. It's going to be Akron and Miami of Ohio. I know it's opening night. Teams are going to get better, but I'm going to overreact just for the fun of it. Speaking of I'm going to overreact, High Point is going to be awesome this year. They win 97-71 over a Furman team. That should also be good. This was also in the Field of 68 opening day marathon. And then Boston College goes to Florida Atlantic. Boston College was an underdog to Florida Atlantic. Someone get Boston College out of the ACC. They're a solid, was it last year they had a good football team? They might even have a good football team this year. I don't really know, but yeah, they're just, it's going to really keep bringing down the ACC. And I feel bad because they just don't have any money. They're not in legit ACC program. No offense, but Florida Atlantic wins the game in overtime, 83-78. Now let's get into some of the odd results. New Orleans goes to TCU and beats them 78-74. You can't do this if you're TCU. Jamie Dixon's a great coach. I've been saying that TCU, they've been getting a lot of hype this offseason. They look like they could be on the bubble this upcoming season, even with their lack of resources, with Jamie Dixon coaching. They go 3 of 27 from 3. 3 of 27 for 3 on your home court against New Orleans. No disrespect, but what are we doing here? This is going to kill them. This is going to be a quad 4 loss. This is a horrific start to the season for Jamie Dixon's squad there. Marist goes to Xavier. My goodness. This was an odd game in general. Marist got up on Xavier quick. I'm like, it's a home court environment, a new coach. It should be exciting. And then Xavier just blew him out for like the middle, 20 minutes of the game. They got up by 17 at one point. I'm like, all right, not even going to keep track of this game. And then it pops up on your phone, close game alert, Marist 60, Xavier 59. I'm like, what in the world is happening here? Xavier ends up winning the game. Xavier's going to suck this year. I hate to say it. Someone asked on our mailbag episode, is Xavier going to overperform? I'm like, yeah, I think so, but they're going to suck. They're competing with a low level, no offense, Marist. I love the Foxes and I love what they've done in conference play, but Xavier's going to struggle this year. They might be bottom 2 of the Big East. But an even what are you doing loss? Boise State loses at home to Hawaii Pacific. Haven't heard of them? It's because they're a Division II team. Boise State is like a legit I think I had them like first 4 out maybe in my opening, preseason prediction for the bracket. You lose to a D2 team. Now it is a very good D2 school. That shouldn't mean that much though. You can't lose at home to Hawaii Pacific. What are we doing here? They need Tyson Deeganhart back very badly. It seems just a shocking result. I saw the video where one of the Hawaii Pacific guys predicted it and said, we're going to beat them tomorrow. And they did. How about that? That might be something everyone says, but eye-opening loss there for Boise State. This is something that like I've never seen. So I don't even know. I believe this doesn't show up on the net. I don't think, but it's definitely going to be like in the net rankings. I don't think since it's a Division II opponent, it doesn't really. I'm not sure. I've never run into this thing in the couple years I've been doing this. I think it's still going to stick in the committee's head at the end of the season. Now, maybe you're thinking Boise State's not going to be anywhere near the bubble at the end of the season if you're losing to a D2 school. I'm hearing you out for that, but yeah, this is gonna haunt them. This is rough. Then also in the Sun Belt and MAC Challenge, Arkansas State won at Ohio 89-85. Just kind of needed another game to fill in that graphic there. But speaking of freshmen, the other one we just want to mention before moving on, Darren Peterson did have 21 points in his debut. He had a little calf thing where he stopped, he got taken out kind of early in the game. But Floyd Badungo also added 23 points for a Kansas team that beat up on a Doug Gottlieb debacle of a Green Bay team, as we kind of expected. All right, next up, let's move on to the Tuesday scoreboard, where the main game was number 6 Duke taking on Texas, where Duke beat them 75-60. Texas looked decent in the first half. I think it was more of just Duke was kind of finding their footing in the first half. I've been saying it for a while. I'm fading Texas this year. I don't think they're going to be awesome. I thought they looked good to start. They held Cam Boozer, but it just looked more like Cam Boozer nerves to me. And then he went off in the second half. He ended up with 15 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 steals. Isaiah Evans was their go-to guy, 23 points, 4 of 8 from 3. Kind of taking a little wait and see approach. I think John Shire is a really underrated basketball coach. I think he's going to be really good. But that's not really a hot take. He's already been really good, but I think he's going to win a national championship before he's at least one. I think John Shire will get there. I think he's done a really underappreciated job with his X's and O's and just kind of controlling the tempo of the game. I think John Shire is very underrated, and we should be kind of appreciating him a little bit more. But Cam Boozer, he got off to a rocky start, but ended up getting there and easily covering, more importantly. Oregon held off Hawaii. My goodness, a TK Simpkins last couple second layup to end up beating Hawaii 60-59, almost 2 wins for the state of Hawaii, a Division II, and then Hawaii. Oregon escapes disaster. They're without Jackson Shellstead, who is injured. I said on the last podcast, I'll repeat it again. I think Oregon is 1 injury away from having a disaster of a season. If Jackson Shellstead were to, unfortunately get re-injured, or Nate Biddle, I think this team could miss the NCAA tournament. I'm starting to fade Oregon. I started to fade before this game, luckily, and now I'm fading them even more. So kind of just went into what I was kind of expecting there. But I did expect them. I did bet Hawaii plus 12.5, which didn't seem like a lot, but I just don't like this Oregon team that much. I think they're going to struggle down the stretch, especially with their depth. The number 1 team in the country did play. They took on Evansville, where they won 82-51. Braden Smith had 11 assists, didn't get in double figures, but he's going for that assist record, trying to pass Bobby Hurley in the all-time Division I assist category. Could be a really rough year for Bobby Hurley. Arizona State should be awful this year is kind of what I'm thinking. We'll see what he can do. He might get passed for his assist record and get fired in the same year. Could be a tough year for Bobby Hurley this year, but weirdly, kind of more notably, Purdue is now number 1 at KenPom, with that Houston just kind of sneaking by Lehigh, where they were projected to win by 30 plus. Purdue now overtakes. I believe Purdue was 3rd in the preseason because Florida was actually 2, but they lost, so they dropped. So your top 5 at KenPom now is actually Purdue number 1, Houston number 2, Kentucky at number 3, Florida at number 4, and Illinois at number 5. Arizona's up into the top 10. Duke is at number 6 following Illinois. So just kind of interesting to note there. Doesn't mean much, but yeah, Purdue is now your number 1 team at KenPom. Speaking of Kentucky, they take down Nichols 77-51. Really no surprise. There was kind of a defensive showcase there in the first half there, but Kentucky runs away with it. Number 10, Texas Tech takes down Lindenwood 98-60. Texas Tech was without a ton of players, most notably JT Toppin and Lawan Watts. But thank goodness for Christian Anderson, who it's going to be awesome. 34 points, 11 assists for the sophomore. Christian Anderson's going to be a name to know. Texas Tech was favored by 34.5 points in this game without JT Toppin and without Lawan Watts, and they still covered. This team's going to be awesome. Do not sleep on Texas Tech this year. I picked them in to go to my Final Four. Might even take them, depending on how far they're going to the national championship game. UConn's been my pick to win the national championship. Texas Tech is close. I love this Texas Tech team. I think they're going to be continue to just be fantastic this upcoming season. UNC Greensboro actually led at the half against Kansas State, and then Kansas State popped off in the second half. Wins the game 93-64. Got a little nervous there for a while, but PJ Haggerty ended up with 27 points. He just raises their floor. He's awesome. Robert Morris takes on Iowa. Iowa, under Ben McCollum, scores 101 points, usually playing a slow style offense there. 101 points against Robert Morris. Alvaro Figueres transferred from Robert Morris to Iowa and came off the bench in this one. Scored 18 points and 11 rebounds. Had a really good game against his former squad. He was the player of the year last year at Robert Morris, and Bennett Sturts was also just fantastic. I think Bennett Sturts has my favorite looking shot in the entire country. It is so pure looking. It just looks beautiful. Iowa, going to be a fun team to watch this year under Ben McCollum. West Virginia takes down Mount St. Mary's 70-54. Really no surprise. Nevada. Watch out for Nevada this year. They might be, especially with Boise State losing to a D2 team. I think Nevada would probably be my pick to be third place in the Mountain West this year after San Diego State and Utah State. I'm going to go with Nevada after them because of the game we'll talk about after this, which was kind of ugly. But Louisiana Tech, solid program, but Nevada dominates them 77-50. UT Martin goes to UNLV and beats them 86-81. This is a weird one. This is very weird because Josh Pastner has a lot of talent. This is a bad loss. UNLV kind of has like potential at-large hopes for this upcoming season with the talent they've put together. They've got a very talented roster. You can't lose opening night to UT Martin. I know you're looking for some continuity, but this is just something you can't do. So move Nevada ahead of UNLV in the Mountain West pecking order, in my opinion, along with probably ahead of Boise State, just with that disaster. Another kind of weird result that flew under the radar. NJIT beat Fordham. Fordham was an 11-point favorite in this game. NJIT ended up winning by 11, 72-61. I really like Mike Magpio, the coach at Fordham, formerly at UC Riverside. Weird result here. I thought Fordham was, kind of going to be a sneaky, really good team this upcoming season, but NJIT just down the road from Fordham and takes them down. Then UNC Asheville lost at Wichita State 75-58, and kind of two mid-major programs that are always very solid. All right, that's the results. That's all we need to talk about. That's all the games that went on from this past 2 days. Very exciting past 2 days. Now let's dive into our rankings. I didn't move a ton around, but I did update records. Creighton's actually the only one on here who hasn't played a game. There's only one team on here that lost a game, and it is Florida. So I still have Florida at number 7. So like I said, just a kind of reminder, this is just kind of going to be my AP poll sort of thing. I do start to lean into, it's kind of more of like, an AP poll that removes AP poll tendencies once you get later into the season, once I start doing bracketology and resume building stuff. So it's kind of a combination of the two, of resume and of just overall opinion, AP poll like. But right now it's going to be just AP poll like pretty much. So that's why I moved Florida down a little bit. But do have Purdue at number 1 still, Houston at number 2, UConn at number 3. I had Florida at number 4, and then I moved them down. So I just moved Duke up to number 4 after their win against Texas. Kentucky at number 5, still really good. I moved Arizona up to number 6. I feel like you just got to put them again above Florida right now, right? So moved them into number 6. Florida at 7. And then, so like last week I had Texas Tech at 7. Like I said, I still think Texas Tech's going to be awesome, but I had to move Arizona ahead of some of these teams. So don't be mad at me for moving, these teams back. So Texas Tech, number 8, Michigan at number 9, BYU 10, St. John's 11, Arkansas 12, Louisville 13. Very in on all of those teams. Very good. I think there's a clear gap next. UCLA kind of struggled a little bit with Eastern Washington, their opening matchup. I think they're going to be fine. Donovan Dent's going to be awesome. 21-9 in his opener. Tennessee, after that, Nate Ament had a good game in his opening night. Gonzaga right after them. Alabama after that. watch out for LeBaron Philon. I'm the biggest LeBaron Philon fan you're going to find this upcoming season. I think he's going to be, at worst, a second-team All-American as long as he stays healthy. Illinois at 18, this feels too low. I think they're better than 18th. I want to move them up, but I'm not quite ready to move them. Like they could realistically probably be like 14th. Honestly, probably should be. Maybe I'll change this before posting it tonight. But yeah, they're pretty good. Kansas at 19, Iowa State at 20. Nothing changes here. San Diego State at 21, Wisconsin at 22, NC State at 23. I moved Missouri ahead of Michigan State. Missouri went to Howard. Respect for Dennis Gates to going to Howard on opening night. Not a lot of coaches would do that. It doesn't even really, like, they looked really good in the game. It doesn't even really have to do with that. I'm buying in on this Missouri team. They were one of my risers in my last podcast. They're going to be fantastic. I really like this Missouri team. Michigan State at 25, taking the wait and see approach. Ole Miss at 26. Got a good game from AJ Storr in night one in their opening night win. North Carolina at number 27. Last week I had Auburn at 28. I got them out of there. I don't even have them on my next 10 anymore. It might be a hot take, but I know they still won against a solid Bethune-Cookman team, but yeah, I don't like it. I don't like this Auburn team this year. So don't hate me too much, Auburn fans. I picked you to win the national championship last year. I was ride or die with Auburn all year last year. I think it's going to be a little bit of a rebuild year this year. That's all I'm saying. Vanderbilt beat up on Lipscomb so badly. I know Lipscomb lost their coach, but they're still a solid program with good resources, and Vanderbilt's going to be terrific this year. Creighton still at 29, haven't played, and then Virginia won their opening night matchup. Next 10, Iowa. I got a 31. I want to get them into the rankings really bad. Oklahoma up next. Ohio State, I know this is like splitting hairs here. I actually had Ohio State ahead of Oklahoma, ended up moving them back. Ohio State won a game against IU Indy, 118 to 102. Yeah, you scored 118 points. That's awesome. But how do you give up 102 points to IU Indy? It was a very fast-paced game. They're going to try and play as fast as humanly possible. I posted on the Instagram. Again, go follow it. Bracket Science with 2 S's. Jake Diebler trying to be Nate Oates, just not quite as good as Nate Oates, quite frankly. But I like the thought, but still a good team. We'll see. Bruce Thornton, John Mobley, and Devin Royal going to be really good. Got Indiana after them, taking a wait and see approach on them. Same with USC and Maryland. Got Utah State up next. Baylor, who kind of struggled early in their game against UT Rio Grande Valley, but ended up picking up a solid win. Then I did move these two teams into the rankings: Marquette and Mississippi State at respectively 39 and 40. I dropped out Auburn and I dropped out. I can't remember. I'm missing someone. I dropped someone else out, but they dropped from like 39th to out. I can't remember who it was. It wasn't Boise State, but yeah. Anyway, someone. So here's what I'm going with the rankings. Not a ton change. Moved up Arizona, moved down Florida just a hair. Put in Vanderbilt, moved up Missouri, and that's pretty much it. All right, enough of that. Let's dive into the games to know for Wednesday. So this might be the point when you look at this graphic. If you're going to close the podcast just because this is so rough, I am going to give some picks though. So if you're into betting, stick with us, but hit the like button before you head out and subscribe to the show. On Wednesday, tonight, starting at 6 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, Rider goes to Rutgers. Yeah, not a lot of fun there, but I do like Rider plus 20.5 in this game. Quite frankly, I think Rider is going to cover this number, mainly just because I think Rutgers is going to suck this year. Them and Penn State going to be two of the worst power conference teams in my opinion, but Steve Pikiell's a really good coach, so wouldn't be surprised if he kind of rejuvenates a little bit this year without Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, gets back to a little bit more grittiness, but I like Rider plus 20.5 in this game. University of Maryland Eastern Shore taking on Georgia at 7 o'clock. Georgia favored by 29.5. I have no thoughts for this game. Will not be tuning into this game. At 8 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, Alabama A&M traveling to Indiana. Indiana favored by 27.5. I have no thoughts on this game either. 8 o'clock on Peacock, South Dakota at number 23, Creighton. Okay, South Dakota, decent program. Creighton, only ranked team, and has a game. Should be all right. 8 o'clock on ESPN Plus, Southern, who just got drilled by Arkansas, goes to Marquette. Marquette's favored by 24.5 in this game. All right, 8 o'clock ESPN Plus, Tarleton State goes to LSU. LSU favored by 18.5. Doesn't seem like a lot of points there, but LSU's not going to be too spectacular. They do have some talent, but we'll see. This is my favorite game of the night. 9 o'clock on the SEC network. God, YouTube TV, figure it out. Get ESPN back. I guess I should mention, just give a quick shout out to whoever it was on YouTube yesterday who was streaming Texas and Duke, probably illegally. I'm sure it probably is illegal, but that was incredibly clutch to for me to be able to watch the game, watch the whole game, was able to watch it on YouTube. So hopefully this becomes a trend and they don't track down on it, because that was pretty cool. Maybe they'll do the same thing, even though it's not a very as high level of a game. Mississippi State favored by 25 over North Alabama. We'll see what Josh Hubbard can do. Might go for 30, 35 in this one. Then at 9 o'clock, this game's not even on TV, but I needed games to fill. New Mexico minus 21 against East Texas A&M, excuse me. Main reason I put this on here, I'll just full transparency. I accidentally put New Mexico instead of UNLV on the post them on the Instagram for games, and UNLV lost to who are we just talking about? Who they lost to? God, I got to go back and look. Who'd they just lose to? UT Martin. It's been a long couple days. It's been a lot of basketball being watched, and I accidentally put New Mexico on the graphic because I don't even know what was going through my mind. So decided to make it up to New Mexico fans and give them a little bit here. It's not even on the Mountain West Network. It's just a game being played. So maybe there's a live stream for it. On Thursday, it's a little bit better of a day. Jackson State should be, a top team. I actually picked them to win the SWAC. Bethune-Cookman might now be the team after going to overtime with Auburn at Auburn. Jackson State, solid SWAC program. Number 11, Louisville, favored by 28 in that one. They looked awesome in their opening night game, but we'll see what happens when they get some real competition. 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Louisville, a very fun team to watch. Go watch Louisville. They're one of the funnest teams to watch this upcoming season. Speaking of Bethune-Cookman, speaking of the SWAC, they go to Miami, giving Bethune-Cookman a little bit of love here. Miami only favored by 13 at home against a SWAC school. This game's also actually, all these games are going to be on ESPN Plus on Thursday, so at least you can watch ESPN Plus. If you have, that's the weird thing about this YouTube TV blunder with ESPN. If you have ESPN Plus, but you have YouTube TV, you can't watch like ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU. You can only watch ESPN Plus, which is super weird. It's just I don't know. But yeah, Miami favored by 13 in that game. Miami should be solid, but Bethune-Cookman looks good as well. 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Illinois State, this is my favorite game of the night. Illinois State takes on Ohio at Ohio. Illinois State is going to be a very popular pick to win the Missouri Valley this year. Ohio, always solid in the MAC. Also at 7 o'clock, Central Connecticut State takes on Quinnipiac, two favorites in their respective conferences, the MAAC and the NEC, excuse me. 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus, Campbell travels to West Virginia. West Virginia favored by 16 in that matchup. Kind of like West Virginia to cover in that game, but probably not going to bet it. I haven't looked too deep into these lines. Other than the Rutgers Rider one, I do like that one. Number 3, Florida looks to rebound against North Florida. North Florida should be awful this year. Florida favored by 35 in this one. That one's at 8 o'clock. Grambling State traveling to number 16, Iowa State, who's favored by 29. And then Auburn looks to hopefully do a little better against a Merrimack school at 8 o'clock. All right, so slow days coming up, but be sure to hit that like and subscribe button before heading out. Turn on the post notifications because, like I said, on Friday, I'm thinking, what do I have going on Friday? I don't know. Sometime sort of early to mid-afternoon, maybe between 12 and 3-ish, hopefully. It's going to be a best bets podcast, so it's going to cover some of the Friday night games. So be sure to to stay tuned for that one because we're going to kind of dive deeper into some of the betting lines this week, and hopefully they have the betting lines all out for Sunday's games as well. But because there is a solid slate on Sunday, but definitely for Friday and Saturday at least, and we'll probably just go off the Ken Palm lines on Sunday if they're not out. So Best Bets podcast coming up on Friday. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok so you stay up to date on college basketball at Bracket Science with 2 S's. Ball is officially back. Enjoy the hoops for this upcoming week. We have a big weekend ahead. Check out the Best Bet Show. We'll be back. Talk to you soon. See you later.